I suppose you are familiar with this guy, Saint John the Baptist, a cousin of Jesus and a very important prophet who preached about the imminent coming of Jesus. And maybe you're also familiar with this woman named Salome, a Jewish princess and the stepdaughter of Herod Antipas. And here is the same Salome in a painting by Caravaggio carrying the head of John the Baptist on a silver platter. It wasn't Salome's idea to do this, but she helped her mother Herodias, who held a big grudge against John the Baptist. Let's get into this bizarre story and the many artworks that have been made of it. Let's first look at why Herodias hated Saint John the Baptist so much. Well, Herodias was a princess from the Herodian dynasty who ruled over Judea in and around current-day Israel and Palestine. She was married to her half-uncle Herod II. Together they got a daughter named Salome. But at some point Herodias divorced Herod II and she was married to the half-brother of her ex-husband, and his name was Herod Antipas, who had also just divorced his first wife. So now Salome became the stepdaughter of Herod Antipas, who was the king of Galilee and Perea. Alright, you can imagine that this marital history did not sit well with everyone, and one person who was particularly vocal about that was John the Baptist. First divorcing and then marrying the half-brother of your ex, pretty bad, right? Herodias was obviously not very happy about these critiques from John the Baptist and convinced her husband to arrest John. She actually wanted him dead, but Herod Antipas noticed that John was a pretty good guy and he actually kind of liked him. Okay, hopefully you get this genealogical background and we can move on to the even spicier part of the story. One day, Herod gave a lavish dinner party for his birthday, where he invited army commanders, government leaders and other influential people from the area. And to entertain the crowd, he had his stepdaughter dancing for the guests. And while she is known as Salome, her name is not mentioned in the four Gospels. Actually, only the Gospels of Matthew and Mark describe the story of the stepdaughter of Herod Antipas. The Gospel of Luke only mentions that John is imprisoned and beheaded, and the Gospel of John only briefly mentions his arrest. The name Salome comes from a non-biblical source known as the Jewish Antiquities, a book that tells the Jewish history and was written in the year 94 AD. In that book, the daughter of Herodias is mentioned by name, Salome, and this book also contains a reference to the death of Saint John the Baptist, but it does not mention the role of Salome in the killing of John the Baptist. In fact, it mentions that Herod Antipas had him killed because he was getting too powerful in his kingdom. Anyways, most artists have followed the story as told in the Gospels of Matthew and Mark, where Salome danced before Herod and his guests. These Gospels provide the most spicy version of the story and the most detail, which is pretty helpful for painters. Herod Antipas was so pleased with the dance performance of Salome that when she finished, he called her over and told her, "Anything you ask for I will give you, even half of my kingdom." Salome did not expect this and she consulted with her mother on what to ask. Herodias, who finally saw an opportunity to get rid of John the Baptist, told her that she should ask for the head of John on a platter. Herod was not happy to hear this, but in front of all his birthday guests, he did not want to break his promise, and he ordered a soldier to behead John and bring his head to him. Caravaggio captured the beheading of John the Baptist with all its drama in spectacular fashion. Another particularly explicit version from the Baroque period of this scene is this painting from 1609 by Peter Paul Rubens, where the blood is still spurting out of his neck while his head is being put on the platter and presented to Salome. Similarly, this painting from around 1515 by Bernard van Orly shows the moment just after the beheading when the head is being put on the platter and Salome receives it, with the body of John still visible in the foreground. And in the background, we can see the earlier scene of Salome dancing at the party. The dance of Salome has been of great interest to artists. Gustave Moreau painted several versions of this work entitled The Apparition, where a sensual Salome is dancing while envisioning the bloody head of Saint John the Baptist. It combines different aspects of the story and is not in line with the Gospels, as Salome did not intend to get John's head while she was dancing, but it's a powerful way to summarize the story. The original sources do not mention what kind of dance Salome performed at the party, but some artists leave little doubt that she was not just performing some innocent local folk dance, but a sensual and erotic performance instead, as you can see by the way she's portrayed in this painting from the year 1900 by the German artist Lovis Corinth. You see this more erotic version in many paintings from the year 1893 or later, as they are based on a popular play about Salome's dance by Oscar Wilde, who refers to it as the Dance of the Seven Veils, which is basically a kind of striptease she performed to the king and his audience. As you have seen already throughout this video, by far the most common element of the story that artists depicted is the head of John the Baptist on a platter, either the moment that Salome receives it from a soldier or when she carries it to present her mother with it. I found this an interesting painting by Pieter de Grebber in the first half of the 17th century, showing how Salome brought the head of John to her mother Herodias, who is mutilating the head, apparently to satisfy her anger even more. But the original stories don't mention this event. The story of the beheading of Saint John the Baptist basically ends here rather abruptly. Although there's one addition, mentioning how after the beheading the followers of John collected his body and buried it. It is unclear if they also collected and buried his head, but there are quite some tales about what happened with the head afterwards, and how it has been recovered later on. This is an image from a church in Rome that is one of the many places claiming to have the head of Saint John the Baptist on display. And if you are interested in these kinds of legends, you should definitely look up some of the exotic tales about what happened to his head. Well, I hope you enjoyed this overview of the story of how Saint John the Baptist was beheaded and how it has inspired so many artists over time. I'm curious to hear which of the paintings on this subject is your favorite, whether shown in this video or not. Just let me know in the comment section down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to support the channel. I would really appreciate it. Thanks for watching.